Welcome to the woodshed. In my last video, I said that alcohol wouldn't be my preferred fuel for deep winter camping because I might need to melt snow for drinking and cooking, and I'd have to carry too much fuel in order to do that. I thought I'd test that out. I have a Fancee Feast stove, the Trangia with which I'll be using an ever-new titanium pot stand, and for comparison, an MSR XGK white gas stove. I'll be measuring the fuel and weighing it. I'll be weighing it because that's probably more accurate, but measuring it in terms of volume is probably how most people keep track of their fuel. So I have 100 milliliters of water here at 0.7 degrees centigrade. So just a little bit above freezing. I'll use that to seed the pot so we don't scorch it while we're heating it and adding the snow. Alright, so we'll start with, let's say, 50 milliliters of alcohol. And that's 39 grams. The stove weighs 26 grams. Alright, she's lit. Even though we're in the woodshed, it is windy, so we're going to use the windscreen. Alright, we'll wait for that to melt and boil. Our flame is out. Not bad, we're at 73 degrees centigrade, and that was with 50 milliliters of fuel. A little under 500 milliliters of water in there. I'll add more fuel, and then away we go. That's 20. Let's go with 20 milliliters of fuel. See if that's enough to get us to a boil. I don't want to overshoot by too much because it's hard to snuff a Fancee Feast stove. I've been keeping that lighter in my pocket, so it will ignite, even though it's cold out here. Alright, we have a boil for the first 500-ish milliliters of water at 22 minutes. Fancee Feast stove itself weighed, what, 26 grams? We lost a little bit of alcohol before we snuffed it. It's back down to 26 grams. We did basically burn all the 20 milliliters of fuel there to boil that water. It's again a little above freezing. We'll seed the pot with that so we don't scorch anything. Alright, 70 milliliters. That's 54 grams. Over. Let that melt. We'll put a little more in a minute. Yeah, our first batch of snow is melting down, so we can add a little bit more in there. Alright, we're at a full boil at 52 minutes. 28, 27. We're almost out of fuel. There's another 500 milliliters of water, actually 400 because we seeded it with 100 milliliters. So we really brought 800 to a boil. There we go. Let's see. I got a little bit left here. I overshot by 125 milliliters, so that actually was 500 milliliters coming up to a boil that time. 525. So there we go. 1 liter of water took 140 milliliters of fuel and 52 minutes to make. All right, so I put 100 milliliters of heat in the Trangia. The Trangia weighs 90 grams empty. I guess I'll have to do that at the end of this just to show it. You can see with the alcohol stoves, when you dump the snow in, it takes a while for it to melt, unlike the MSR white gas stove. Just starting to boil. 36 minutes. So the nice thing about a Trangia is we can snuff it. See how much water we got there. So 36 minutes. Oh, that's 500 and there's a wee bit left in the bottom. 75. 575. So we need 425 for the next go round. And I haven't used up all the alcohol that was in the Trangia. So we'll keep going and see if we can do it with just the 100 milliliters. So about halfway through the first boil, I flipped the pot stand over. It raised the pot a little bit, and that seemed to accelerate the heating quite a bit. There we go, we have our boil. 59 minutes. And the stove is just barely hanging in there. So I wasn't fibbing when I said we were really nearly out of fuel. There's our liter of water from the Trangia. This represents an hour's worth of work, basically, not including gathering the snow. 100 milliliters of fuel. The Trangia did take more time, but it was more efficient. It used 71% of the fuel that the Fancee Feast stove used. I've zeroed out the scale with a full canister of the white gas. When we're done, if we put it back on the scale, the difference will tell us how much we've burned. I don't know how exactly accurate that is. The water in the thing is frozen, so it says minus 0.2 degrees C. And it is slushy. And it's probably not exactly pure water, so it's possible. Now the MSR stove we have to prime. So I've pumped it up. Let a little fuel into the pan. There we go. Stop the fuel from getting in the pan. I do have a fire extinguisher here, because this could be fun and games. Alright, let her prime. With the MSR, it's melting pretty much as soon as I put the snow in. Alright, we're at a boil at 11 minutes. Alright, there's 500 milliliters. Alright, 500 milliliters plus, there was a little extra there. That will be, well, let's put it down. Watch it settle out. $125. Have another slushy 100 milliliters of water, just to keep it consistent. goes well. So, all right, we have 625 milliliters in there, which means we need 375 in the pot. So, what are we? 350. All right, 26 minutes total. 11 minutes on that second one, bringing it to a boil. There we go, just a shade over 1 liter. You got it just about right. All right, oh, that feels good. My hands are so cold. And that took half the time. That'll start at 0, we'll lift it off, and then that'll tell us how much fuel we've used. Minus 584. Alright, with the Fancee Feast stove, we burned 108 grams of fuel, which was about 140 milliliters. With the Trangia, we burned 77 grams of fuel, which was about 100 milliliters. With the MSR, we burned 58 grams of fuel, which was a little more than 80 milliliters of fuel. But the bigger factor was that it took less than half the amount of time to boil the water using the MSR compared to the alcohol stoves. In the wintertime, you may need water fairly quickly. You may need hot water fairly quickly, and you also don't have a lot of daylight to use to complete your chores. And you may not want to be doing things like gathering up snow and trying to boil it for water after dark. So there are a lot of advantages to using the white gas stove compared to the alcohol stoves if you need to boil water for your potable water in the wintertime. That's what I've got. If you have any comments or suggestions, please put them in the comments below. Thank you.